Hey BookTube, welcome back to the History Shelf. My name is Peg. So history fans, we have another epic episode of new history on the horizon. We've got a ton of new history books that are dropping next month, May in particular. I'm trying to scope these out by month that you need to know about. And I'm at my new desk. Woo! I'll have to post a picture somewhere in here to show you my command center. I'm a little closer to the window, but that's all right. It gives me better lighting, at least on this side. And yeah, it's awesome. As you can see, I've got my books stacked up here. Got books over here. Plenty of room. Tastes like freedom, okay? That's what it's about here. Okay, so it's kind of a wacky Monday. I'm excited because the NHL playoffs have begun. My team is not in it. Thanks to the Philadelphia Flyers biting it, the Red Wings lost out on an opportunity to get into the playoffs. So that's great. But in the meantime, I'm just going to watch other teams. I love hockey. And we are going to be looking at today a stack of books. Whew, like I said, that are all mostly coming out in May. The books are coming fast and furious here at the History Shelf. But I'm going to show you some. I've got some finished copies that came in, so I thought I'd run through those really quickly because they're just great to have. One of them, two of them, I have not shown on this channel before, so let's start with that. We're going to start with this one right here. This looks like a fantastic book. This actually came out in March. So March 19th. So I'm a little bit behind in getting to this one. But I got a finished copy of this, and looks like it's going to be a really good. This is The Black Box. Writing the Race by Henry Louis Gates Jr. It's put out by Penguin Press. It says here, Gates presents a powerful new history of how Black Americans have used the written word to define and redefine themselves, in resistance to the lies of racism and often in heated disagreement with each other. With this book, The Black Box, Writing the Race. Let me see here. Is it better to hold it up on this side? Maybe. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to lean back a little bit. Distilled over many years from his legendary Harvard introductory course in African American Studies, Gates tells the story of Black self-definition in America through the prism of the writers who have led the way, from Phyllis Wheatley and Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Booker T. Washington to Zora Neale Hurston and Richard Wright, James Baldwin, and Toni Morrison. These writers used words to create a livable world, a home for Black people destined to live out their lives in a bitterly racist society. Let's see here. So then the pub sheet kind of goes into why this is a critical book right now with school curricula, DEI across the spectrum, teaching of Black history. It says, for decades, Dr. Gates has served at the helm of African American studies. He is at the heart of a lot of the most intense, I would not have written it that way in this pub sheet. He is at the heart of the most intense Harvard campus issues that speak to our largest collective struggles. This book emerges from the core of that history and relationship. It is the culmination of Dr. Gates's legendary career and scholarship on how literature has played a crucial role in winning socio-political and artistic freedom. Just as urgently, Dr. Gates connects the historical trajectory of Black writing to our contemporary struggle and shows how writing by Black authors has served as works of resistance and creation, fending off virulent white racism, and why we must protect free exchange of ideas in the classroom and beyond. All right. It's about 304 pages. Came out yes, it is April, and March was last month. Came out last month. And I love reading about writers of all races. And So this is going to be great. I like that it takes a kind of the the literary into the historical. Some of the chapter headings are modernism and its discontents. Let's see, the true art of a race's past. Sellouts versus racemen. And policing the color line. So, I think this is going to be a pretty fast read too. As you can see, the type is just very large and the margins are wide, so it's kind of a condensed. Whoa, man! If I hit that, even with this large desk, I'm in danger of hitting my mouse and pausing this video because that's just how klutzy I am. The black box, writing the race. All right, we've got a lot of books to get through. And I'm a hungry lady, and I need dinner. So let's keep rolling. Got a nice finished copy. I wrote a review of this book for Shelf Awareness. This is from St. Martin's Press. This is Cold Crematorium, Reporting from the Land of Auschwitz by Joseph Debrezzini, with a foreword by Jonathan Friedland. Go to Shelf Awareness, type in my name, and you will, or just type in this book's name, and you'll see the review. Loved this book at the same time that it hurt my heart to read it. It was tough going, but this is an important read. Everyone who wants to understand the various levels of hellishness involved with the Holocaust, because there was another level. It wasn't just the cruelty of the Nazis. Well, there was layers to that, because they actually encouraged people within the camps to make life hell for each other. So there wasn't even a full solidarity. And this book chronicles that to just a level that will just astound you. And it goes to show you just how evil the Nazis were, but, when forced into situations most of us cannot imagine, people's motives and instincts come out, and whether that's for good or bad. So anyway, this was a tough read, but it's so essential. I talked about this before on my channel. I've shown this book before, but I highly recommend Cold Crematorium. I know I sent the arc of this to Bill at the Rutenberg Library, and Bill left me a Voxer telling me he loved this book, and he also read it and was touched by it and horrified by it. But it's lyrical, it's beautiful to read at the same time that it staggers you, So, I can't recommend this one enough. Cold Crematorium by Joseph Debrezzini, St. Martin's Press. Got a finished copy of this book, and it's from Dutton, and I'm looking forward to this. I'm really happy to get a finished copy of this. This is Chamber Divers, the untold story of the D-Day scientists who changed special operations forever. And I might even mention this book again as we approach coming in mid-May, guys. Stay tuned on this channel and one other, because there's going to be, I've mentioned it before about D-Day, and I am going to be doing something throughout June, and then in the run-up to June, I'm going to be announcing the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and that how I'm going to be recognizing it on this channel, and I believe Bill is going to be joining me, so we're still working out the plans on that. But this could be another book in that, maybe a list of recommendations of newer books that kind of touch on D-Day. I'm trying to put a list together of classics on D-Day, from maybe for different angles, by the participants, by those who survived. So still putting it together. But this book is going to be helpful in that. In fact, because of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm seeing books coming across my desk here, the advanced readers copies from publishers. One of them is just massive, and I'm going to show it in my next video for the June releases, and I'll probably also be encompassing that book, or two books actually, around D-Day. You're going to see a lot of releases coming out around D-Day and more D-Day topics. So, yeah, both from publishers and from this channel, you're going to be seeing more around D-Day. So this is going to join that. Let's see. And then I have shown you this book before too, but I got a beautiful finished copy of this. This is by David L. Rohl, who wrote the biography on George Marshall. And this is Ascent to Power, How Truman Emerged from Roosevelt's Shadow and Remade the World. So I'm eager to read this because I've heard of a couple of different, or maybe was it just one person say, I don't know. Someone was saying that it might be a little too simple, but I don't know. David L. Rohl, he's great. I mean, maybe it's just covering a lot of ground we've already read, but I'm looking forward to it. So I don't mean to say that it's simple, because writing a book like this is never simple. But again, it goes back to my love of, I really just have come to appreciate Truman a lot over these years. But still in all, I think Ike Eisenhower is still one of my favorite old-timey presidents from around pre-World War II and after. I think Eisenhower's still up there for me. But Truman, I got some respect for a lot. So Ascent to Power by David L. Rohl. Wanted to just show you the finished copy that came in for that. These are available now. So almost certain, like Chamber Divers, sometimes I get finished copies before the pub date because, you know, they're ready to go, but it's really close. I think you can get those right now. So, and here's one I haven't shown you, and this one is out right now. This came out in March, right? This also came out on March 19th. I'm so excited to read this one because, you know, my love of Russian history, right? And I have read this author before. It looks like he wrote it maybe with his son. We will find out. But this is Martin Sixsmith. I have a few books by Martin Sixsmith. And this is Putin and the Return of History. How the Kremlin rekindled the Cold War. All right. It's by Bloomsbury Continuum. So these last two books I showed you, the Chamber Divers and Ascent to Power, those were both Dutton books. Okay, so we got those in here. Okay. So this one is Bloomsbury, the good folks at Bloomsbury. Putin and the Return of History is an original history of Russia's 1,000-year past, tracing the forces and the myths that have shaped Putin's politics and rekindled the Cold War. Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine has reshaped history. In the decades after the collapse of Soviet communism, the West convinced itself that liberal democracy would henceforth be the dominant, ultimately unique system of governance, a hubris that shaped how the West would treat Russia for the next 2 decades. But history wasn't over. Putin and the Return of History examines Russia's 1,000-year past, tracing the forces and the myths that have shaped Putin's politics of aggression, the enduring terror of encirclement by outsiders, the subjugation of the individual to the cause of the state, the collectivist values, the willingness to lie and deceive, the co-opting of religion, and the belief in Great Russia's mission to change the world. So it's written by I should say this. You can't barely see that. Right now you can. So it's written with Daniel Sixsmith. And doesn't say how they're related, but they are. They have to be. They just have to be. So this is out right now, if you're interested. Check out Putin and the Return of History by Martin Sixsmith, who has also written the books that I have are, I have an older one of his. Also, here are the authors. Let me know if you see a resemblance. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I have a couple of Martin Sixsmith's books, and they're good. So, yeah, so those are the finished copies. Let's get into the books that are on their way. This book is coming out May 14th from Viking, and I've read it, and I have a review coming out of it in Shelf Awareness very soon. Probably around, well, it'll come out around the time of the publication. This is Skies of Thunder, the Deadly World War II Mission Over the Roof of the World by Carolyn Alexander. She's the one that wrote The Endurance. She also wrote a book about the Bounty, the Mutiny on the Bounty, which was a great book. I've read both of those books. They're fantastic. This was also fantastic. Skies of Thunder, the Deadly World War II Mission Over the Roof of the World. So I don't have the pub sheet for this, but let me just read the back to you real quick. In April 1942, the Imperial Japanese Army steamrolled through Burma, capturing the only ground route from India to China. Supplies to this critical zone would now have to come from India by air, meaning across the Himalayas on the most hazardous air route in the world. Skies of Thunder is the story of an epic human endeavor, one in which Allied troops faced the monumental challenges of operating from airfields hacked from the jungle and taking on the hump, the fearsome mountain barrier that defined the air route. They flew fickle, untested aircraft through monsoons and enemy fire with inaccurate maps and only primitive navigation technology. The result was a litany of both deadly crashes and astonishing feats of survival. The most chaotic of all the war's arenas, the China-Burma-India theater, was further confused by the conflicting political interests of Roosevelt, Churchill, and their demanding nominal ally, Chiang Kai-shek. Carolyn Alexander is brilliant at probing what it takes to survive extreme circumstances. You know, having wrote the defining books on Ernest Shackleton's Endurance and William Blythe's Bounty, she has unearthed obscure memoirs and long-ignored records to give us the pilots' and soldiers' eye views of flying and combat, as well as honest portraits of commanders like the celebrated Vinegar Joe Stilwell and Claire Lee Chenault. She assesses the real contributions of units like the Flying Tigers, Merrill's Marauders, and the British Chindits, who pioneered new and unconventional forms of warfare. Decisions in this theater exposed the fault lines between the Allies, America and Britain and India, and ultimately, most fatefully, between America and China, as Roosevelt pressed to help the Chinese nationalists in order to forge a bond with China after the war. And it also says here, this is a masterpiece of modern war history, and I actually do really agree with the jacket copy. It is. She gives a really interesting, along with the stories of the pilots, which are harrowing. She's got just like a mini history on like the second Burma campaign of 44. Which is funny because I just got a brand new book that I might be reviewing. That's coming out from James Holland, and it's about the second Burma campaign of 44. So it's all you know, everything is just feeding into each other. Between the D-Day books coming out, we've got a couple of books on this theater of war, which is, you know, it was mostly called like the Forgotten Theater. They called it the CBI, the China, Burma, India. But it's fascinating. I learned so much reading this book, and I really recommend it. Check out my review when it comes out on Shelf Awareness. I'll be posting that on all my social media when it does, when it goes live. But this comes out May 14th from Viking. Ooh, and then we have talk about something academic. The good folks at Yale sent me this book. This comes out May 28th. Yale University Press. You know, I love me some University Press books. Yes. It's well over 400 pages, but I got an advanced review copy of, let me see if I can get around that. There we go. The Interbellum Constitution, Union, Commerce, and Slavery in the Age of Federalisms by Alison L. LaCroix. This will be 576 pages when it's ready to go. The paper's very heavy. It's a heavy book. Between 1815 and 1861, American constitutional law and politics underwent a profound transformation. These decades of the interbellum Constitution were a foundational period of both constitutional crisis and creativity. The interbellum Constitution was a set of widely shared legal and political principles, combined with a thoroughgoing commitment to investing those principles with meaning through debate. Each of these shared principles, commerce, concurrent power, and jurisdictional multiplicity, concerned what we now call federalism, meaning that they pertain to the relationships among multiple levels of government with varying degrees of autonomy. Alison LaCroix argues, however, that there existed many more federalisms in the early 19th century than today's constitutional debates admit. As LaCroix shows, this was a period of intense rethinking of the very basis of the U.S. national model, a problem debated everywhere from newspapers and state houses to local pubs and pulpits, ultimately leading both to civil war and to a new, more unified constitutional vision. This book is the first that synthesizes the legal, political, and social history of the early 19th century to show how deeply these constitutional questions dominated the discourse of the time. This comes out May 28th from Yale University Press. Looks good. Probably, and it's a little more, I'd say, accessible in that the type. Well, this is the advanced copy, but I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be just fine as far as type print and engage. Its ability to engage and to be accessible to most readers. So I'm excited to take a look at that. Let's see here. Okay. Got a bunch of books that are coming all out on the same date, May 7th. And we've got a bunch of books from Basic Books. The good folks at Basic Books are cranking out really good history right now, as they usually do. Now, one of these I'm trying to squeeze in. I am reading, how many books am I reading for this week? 3 books this week for written reviews due next Monday. And one of them is pretty, should I show it here now? Yes, I should. I'll show it because I am. Oh, and I'll show the other one too because it's coming out. Yes, it's coming out next week. But so I'm reading this one right now, but this is also coming out in May. Okay. Do I have the date? It just says May. I'll be reviewing this, and it's due, and I've got to get. I'm about 100 pages in, but guess what, history fans? You know this name. Alan Taylor is back, and we have American Civil Wars, a Continental History, 1850 to 1873. This is being put out by Norton, and I will be writing a review of this. In a beautifully crafted narrative of soaring ideals and sordid politics of civil war and foreign invasion, Alan Taylor presents a pivotal 20-year period in which the U.S., Mexico, and Canada all transformed themselves into nations. The American Civil War stands at the center of the story, its military dimension and the drama of emancipation the focus. The American West and its native peoples feature prominently with fascinating detail on California and the Southwest borderlands. The instability in the U.S. shakes the continent. It invites a French invasion of Mexico that fuels long-standing hostilities between conservative and liberal forces. In Canada, it raises the urgency of a continental confederation to manage the differences of francophones and anglophones. The vivid character portraits throughout are indelible, from Lincoln, Jefferson Davis, and the great liberal leader Benito Juarez to key black abolitionists such as Martin Delany and Marianne Shadd. So, yeah. It looks like a thin book, but these pages are packed in tight. It's, you know what I mean? It's dense. This book is going to publish at 672 pages. So, yeah. I'm working on that right now. So I'm actually, like I said, working on that. I will mention that I have a book review of this highly anticipated book of the year. I've read. It's just listed as the most anticipated book of the year because it's Erik Larson. And I had the honor of reading this within a week, and and it flew by. I mean, I was just so engaged. It was so enjoyable. In fact, I love this book so much, I'm going to reread it. And I will have a long form review of this book coming out in the next week or so at Book Browse Review, along with the ancillary Beyond the Book article. I worked on this all day Saturday last week. This comes out, I believe, at the end of April, and it's kind of marking the whole event. Get ready. Are you ready for this? The Demon of Unrest. A saga of hubris, heartbreak, and heroism at the dawn of the Civil War. By Erik Larson. You know him as the author of The Devil in the White City and The Splendid and the Vile, and now he turns his pen to the 6 months between Lincoln's election and the firing on Fort Sumter, and it is utterly absorbing and enthralling. I loved it. You have to get this on your TBR. And you have to read my book review when it comes out, and I will be posting that on my socials, so follow me in all my socials, which are listed below in the description box. The Demon of Unrest. This knocked my socks off. I told Martine how good it was. And she's got 2 of Erik Larson's book on audio book. She likes to listen to audiobooks. And so she likes his work already. And I told her, just like last week as I'm reading it, I'm like, this book is just amazing. And she's like, I'm going to get the audiobook as soon as it's available. I said, you should. And I'll listen to it with you. Fantastic. We're at 26 minutes. I've got so much to do here. I don't want to give away too much. Book review's coming out. Again, it's all about the run-up, the 6 months, the very, chaotic. And there's like parallels to today because, they're looking at the how tense it was when Lincoln, after his election, had to wait for the electoral votes to be counted. And then the inauguration, there was a lot of fear that those things would not come off peacefully, that there would be attacks on the Capitol. Does this ring any bells to everybody? Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities and parallels, I should say. And it's when you read this, it's very illuminating and kind of scary, but at the same time, it's like, we've been there. We've been through this, to some, degree of differences about what was dividing the country. But, Demon of Unrest, Erik Larson. Fabulous. That is just all I got to say about it. It's fabulous. Okay. Now, but I'm reading the American Civil Wars, and I'm looking at my, I have on a whiteboard over here all my reviews that I'm working on and what I have left and their due dates. So yeah, I've actually have American Civil Wars. I've got 3 books to read this week. And then I'm like, well, let me see if I can squeeze in one more. I don't know if I can make it. But this book comes out May 28th. We're going to go into the basic books. This is The Bookmakers by a history of the book in 18 lives by Adam Smith. Yeah, so this and the next 3 books are all from basic books. Okay, so let me tell you what The Bookmakers is about, and it does look really good. All about the book. Us bookish people, we love the book. Looking at fonts and stuff, typography, paper, illustrations, anachronistic books. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Books tell all kinds of stories, but if we learn to read the signs correctly, they can tell us the story of their own making, too. The Bookmakers offers a new way into the story of Western culture's most important object, the book, through dynamic portraits of 18 individuals who helped to define it. Books have transformed humankind by enabling authors to create, document, and entertain, yet we know little about the individuals who brought these fascinating objects into existence and of those who first experimented in the art of printing, design, and binding. Who were the renegade bookmakers who changed the course of history? From Wynkyn de Word's printing of 15th century bestsellers to Nancy Cunard's avant-garde pamphlets produced on her small press in Normandy, this is a celebration of the book, with the people put back in. So, The Bookmakers, A History of the Book in 18 Lives, May 28th from Basic Books. Okay. It doesn't matter how big my desk is, I will always hit my microphone. Count on it. All right, this book's come out, let me just do these. These are coming out May 7th. You've got Victor Davis Hanson, The End of Everything, How Wars Descend into Annihilation. The cover is very, I really love that painting of the, is that the burning of Rome or something? I don't know what that is. I should know that. So let's see. Victor Davis Hanson. If you're a history fan, you know his name, and you've read him more than likely. War can settle disputes, topple tyrants, and bend the trajectory of civilization, sometimes to the breaking point. From Troy to Hiroshima, moments when war has ended and utter annihilation have reverberated through the centuries, signaling the end of political systems, cultures, and epochs. Though much has changed over the millennia, human nature remains the same. Modern societies are not immune from the horror of a war of extinction. In The End of Everything, military historian Victor Davis Hanson narrates a series of sieges and sackings that span the age of antiquity to the conquest of the New World to show how societies descend into barbarism and obliteration. In these stories of Thebes, Carthage, Constantinople, and Tenochtitlan, he depicts war's drama, violence, and folly, highlighting the naivete that plagued the vanquished and the wrath that justified mass slaughter. Hanson delivers a sobering call to contemporary readers to heed the lessons of obliteration, lest we blunder into catastrophe once again. All right, it's going to be 356 pages. This comes out May 7th from Basic Books. I'm kind of like leaving some of my editorializing out just because we're at 32 minutes and I've got many more books to show you. So the next book coming out on May 7th from Basic Books also is just another winner. I wish I could review every single one of these. This is The Damascus Events, The 1860 Massacre and the Making of the Modern Middle East by Eugene Rogan, who wrote The Fall of the Ottomans, which I have as well. This book will be 400 pages. So what is the Damascus Events about? I will tell you. On July 9th, 1860, a violent mob swept through the Christian quarters of Damascus. For 8 days, violence raged, leaving 5,000 Christians dead. Thousands of shops looted and churches, houses, and monasteries razed. The sudden and ferocious outbreak shocked the world, leaving Syrian Christians vulnerable and fearing renewed violence. Drawn from never-before-seen eyewitness accounts of the Damascus events, eminent Middle East historian Eugene Rogan tells the story of how a peaceful multicultural city came to be engulfed in slaughter. This kind of ties in with what Hanson was saying over here. He traces how rising tensions between Muslim and Christian communities led some to regard extermination as a reasonable solution. Rogan also narrates the wake of this disaster and how the Ottoman government moved quickly to retake control of the city, end the violence, and reintegrate Christians into the community. These efforts to rebuild Damascus proved successful, preserving peace for the next 150 years until 2011. All right. Yes, he has written, in addition to The Fall of the Romans, he has also written that really thick history of the Arabs. And that's Eugene Rogan, coming from Basic Books on May 7th. All right. This also sounds delicious. My gosh, there's so many good books coming out this spring and summer. What are we going to do? Not enough time. This is The City of Light, City of Shadows, Paris and the Belle Epoque by Mike Report. I almost said Rappaport, but it's Report. May 7th. It's going to be 448 pages. No, I'm sorry, May 14th. This book comes out May 14th. The other two were May 7th. So, from Mike Report. Oh, I have a book by him. He wrote the 1848 Year of Revolution. He also wrote the Napoleonic Wars and The Unruly City, Paris, London, and New York in the Age of Revolution. He lives in Scotland. Okay, that's all about the author. So let's hear about this book, City of Light, City of Shadows, Paris and the Belle Epoque. From the wrought ironwork of the Eiffel Tower to the flourishing Art Nouveau movement, the Belle Epoque is remembered as a golden age for Parisian culture. Beneath the veneer of elegance, however, here we go, fin de siècle Paris was a city at war with itself. In City of Light, City of Shadows, Mike Report uncovers a Paris riven by social anxieties and plagued by overlapping epidemics of poverty, political extremism, and anti-Semitism. As the Sacré-Cœur and Eiffel Tower rose into the skies, redefining architecture and the Paris skyline, Paris's slums were plagued by disease and gang violence. The era, now remembered as a high point of French art and culture, was also an age of intense political violence, including anarchist bombings, organized right-wing mobs, and assassinations. Weaving together these stories of splendor and suffering into the fabric of the city itself, the book offers a brilliant account of Paris's Belle Epoque, revealing the darkness that suffused the City of Light. Yeah, nice play on the words there. So that's coming out May 14th from Basic Books, guys. Oh, here's another one that I missed. Okay, here's a book that is funny in the sense that I had shown you in one of my last videos about a series of 5 books that a scholar on the devil and evil, he wrote a series of books. They were all put out by Cornell, I think it was Cornell University Press, Jeffrey Burton Russell. And funny enough, the title of this book, I'm like, yes, I definitely want to read this. And then I looked at the bibliography because I'm like, I bet you he used a lot of Russell for his research. And sure enough, he did. Jeffrey Burton Russell is listed in every chapter of this book. But what do we have here? This is The Devil's Best Trick, How the Face of Evil Disappeared by Randall Sullivan. The Devil's Best Trick, How the Face of Evil Disappeared. And this is coming out from Atlantic Monthly Press, which is an imprint of Grove Atlantic. It comes out May 14th. It'll be 336 pages. Do I have... I do have something here to read for you. I can't read all of this because we're running low on time, but I will say this. How we explain the evils of the world and the darkest parts of ourselves has preoccupied humans throughout history. A sweeping and comprehensive search for the origins of belief in a satanic figure across the centuries, The Devil's Best Trick is a keen investigation into the inescapable reality of evil in the myriad ways we attempt to understand it. In this book, Randall Sullivan travels to Catemaco, Mexico, to participate in the Hour of the Witches, an annual ceremony in which hundreds of people congregate in the jungle south of Veracruz to negotiate terms with El Diablo. He takes us through the most famous and best documented exorcism in American history, which lasted 4 months. And woven throughout, he delivers original reporting on the shocking story of a small town in Texas that, one summer in 1988, unraveled into paranoia and panic after a 17-year-old boy was found hanging from the branch of a horseapple tree, and rumors about satanic worship and cults spread throughout the wider community. Sullivan also brilliantly melds historical, religious, and cultural conceptions of evil, from the Book of Job to the New Testament, to the witch hunts in Europe in the 15th through 17th centuries, to the history of the devil-worshipping Black Mass ceremony and its depictions in 19th century French literature. He brings us through to the satanic panic of the 1980s and the story of one brutal serial killer pondering the psychology of evil. He weaves in writings by John Milton, William Blake, Oscar Wilde, Edgar Allan Poe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Herman Melville, Mark Twain, and many more. Among them, Charles Baudelaire, from whose work Sullivan took the title of the book. So doesn't this sound great? It sounds really interesting. The Devil's Best Trick, How the Face of Evil Disappeared by Randall Sullivan from Atlantic Monthly Press, coming out May 14th. All right, what else do I have left for you guys? Oh, I've got a few things. This is coming from Farrar, Straus and Giroux. It comes out May 28th. And it sounds really good. I don't have a pub sheet for it. I'll have to read from the front. This is The Hamilton Scheme, an epic tale of money and power in the American founding by William Hoagland. This one is going to be pretty thick. I think we don't have a page count just yet. Let me see here. Oh, no, it should be around 544 pages. All right, let's see. The sun's starting to go down here. Forgotten founder no more, Alexander Hamilton has become a global celebrity. Millions know his name. Millions imagine knowing the man. But what did he really want for the country? What risks did he run in pursuing those vaulting ambitions? Who tried to stop him? How did they fight? It's ironic that the Hamilton revival has obscured the man's most dramatic battles and hardest-won achievements, as well as downplaying unsettling aspects of his legacy. Thrilling to the romance of becoming the one-man inventor of a modern nation, our first Treasury Secretary fostered growth by engineering an ingenious dynamo, banking, public debt, manufacturing, for concentrating national wealth in the hands of a government-connected elite. Seeking American prosperity, he built American oligarchy. Hence his animus and mutual sense of betrayal with Jefferson and Madison, and his career-long fight to suppress a rowdy egalitarian movement, little remembered today, the 18th century white working class. Marshalling an idiosyncratic cast of insiders and outsiders, vividly dramatizing backroom intrigues and literal street fights, and sharply dissenting from recent biographies, that should be good. William Hoagland's The Hamilton Scheme brings to life Hamilton's vision and the hard-knock struggles over democracy, wealth, and the meaning of America that drove the nation's creation and hold enduring significance today. Sounds really interesting to me. I always like to hear, a dissenting voice, one that kind of takes issue with other biographers and their angles on Hamilton or whether any subject of a biography. I like to hear people who disagree with each other. So, Farrar, Straus and Giroux, this is coming out May 28th. The Hamilton Scheme. It's hard to it's a really light cover, so maybe they'll make the color pop more in the final finished copy if I get it. Oh, so I got this in a bound galley, which I was really appreciative for. This is from, and I'm not going to hit the pause button. I need to read you the jacket cover for this. This book is from Hanover Square Press. And that's from HarperCollins. So what do we have here? We have, let me make sure I'm holding it up so I can see it. A Gentleman from Japan. The Untold Story of an Incredible Journey from Asia to Queen Elizabeth's Court by Thomas Lockley. Okay, so what is this about? I'll tell you. On November 12th, 1588, 5 young Asian men, led by a 21-year-old called Christopher, traveled up the River Thames to meet Queen Elizabeth I. Christopher's epic sea voyage had spanned from Japan via the Philippines, New Spain, also known as Mexico, Java, and southern Africa. On the way, he had already become the first recorded Japanese person in North America. Now Christopher was the first ever Japanese visitor to England, and no other would leave such a legacy for centuries to come. The story of Christopher is almost utterly forgotten and has never been fully told before. A Gentleman from Japan is a fast-paced historical narrative of adventure, cross-cultural endeavor, and intellectual exchange, perseverance, espionage, and conflict in the age of exploration. I only laughed when I said Christopher because I was just thinking, wow, what a name to take. Christopher Columbus. But yeah, a gentleman from Japan, Hanover Square Press, coming out May 21st. May 21st, guys. If that sounds to your liking. This is a really sweet little bound galley. It's got lots of maps and drawings and line drawings. So it's going to be kind of cool. Looking forward to reading this. All right, guys, 2 more books. Let's see if I can get this in before 50-minute mark. Oh, okay, so there's a couple more that I missed that are coming out in early May, but May 7th from Simon & Schuster. We've got The Loves of Theodore Roosevelt, The Women Who Created a President by Edward F. O'Keefe. I like that last name, O'Keefe. Sorry, I'm being silly. The Loves of Theodore Roosevelt. This is going to be really good. What do we have here? See if I could find... yes, some of this stuff is... I showed you a book a while ago that I read called White House Wild Child, and it was about Alice Roosevelt. I learned a lot about the women in Theodore's life from that book. So, I learned a lot about his sister, who basically ran the show for him or really helped him build his political career, also helped raise his daughter by his first wife. I learned so much from that slim little volume, White House Wild Child. It was fantastic. But this is going to go into more detail. It's a spirited and poignant family love story revealing how an icon of rugged American masculinity was profoundly shaped by the women in his life, especially his mother, sisters, and wives. And the story of his first marriage was just so heartrending and, it's brutal. And then it was just so sad for the daughter from that marriage. I'll read a little bit from the inside. This is a letter from the editor. You hold in your hands the debut of an extraordinary new biographer, Edward O'Keefe. Okay, gorgeously written, impeccably researched, and stunningly perceptive, The Loves of Theodore Roosevelt offers up a dazzlingly new portrait of one of our most important presidents. Through a celebration of the 5 extraordinary yet unsung women, Mother Mitty, older sister Bammy, I loved her name, they all called her Bam or Bammy, younger sister Connie, first wife Alice, and childhood playmate and second wife Edith, who were essential to his success. Did you know that Theodore Roosevelt's top political strategist was his older sister, who was so influential that journalists called her Washington, D.C. home the Little White House? Or that his press secretary was his younger sister, who slipped stories about her brother's heroics in Cuba and rambunctious home life to reporters to create the legend of the Rough Rider we remember today? Or that, while courting the vivacious and opinionated woman who would become his first wife, Roosevelt wrote a remarkably feminist senior thesis for Harvard, arguing in 1880 that women ought to be paid equal to men and have the option of keeping their maiden names upon marriage? Mitty, Bammy, Connie, Alice, and Edith opened the door to the American century and pushed Theodore Roosevelt through it. So this is going to be fabulous. Yeah, I'm all about it. I think you will be as well. The Loves of Theodore Roosevelt, The Women Who Created a President by Edward F. O'Keefe. And congratulations on your upcoming brand new book. An extraordinary new biographer debut. I love elevating that. All right, Edward F. O'Keefe, and that is May 7th from Simon & Schuster. Okay, final book. This is coming from Bloomsbury. This comes out in May. Is it May? It might be May 7th. I've been meaning to read something more contemporary about what's going on in Ukraine, and this is it. This is I Will Show You How It Was, The Story of Wartime Kiev by Ilya Ponomarenko. All right, it's coming from Bloomsbury. And here's our author. He is in full battle gear. You know what I'm saying? Okay. In late February 2022, a series of missiles and rocket strikes began falling upon Ukraine as the Russian military barreled over the border and fanned out across the country. First, they took Chernobyl, then Kherson, then Mariupol. Time stood still as the world waited for Ukraine to flatten underneath the boot of its neighbor. Meanwhile, on the front lines in the capital city, Kiev Independent reporter Ilya Ponomarenko was seeing a different story unfold. After months, years of waiting for this long-feared attack, Ukraine was fed up and ready to fight back. The Russians bogged down hard in combat east and west of Kiev. They got exhausted. They screwed up logistics. They sustained heavy losses. Their unbelievably overconfident blitz was failing. I Will Show You How It Was is Ilya Ponomarenko's heart-wrenching memoir of the war on his homeland, offering a fiery diatribe against Russian hypocrisy and a moving look at what is being lost. But it's also a story of pride and even elation as Ukrainian forces come together, find their mojo, and oust the invaders from Kiev. The most powerful and personal chronicle of the war to date, I Will Show You How It Was, is an exceptional literary achievement, chronicling a stunning feat of resistance and a courageous people set on a miraculous victory. And we have recently voted to send more aid to Ukraine, so that's hopefully that will help them. Yeah, I'll be tapping into this as soon as I can, once I get these other 3 books read this week. So we will end on that note, you guys. That is a plethora of upcoming history for you for May. So let me know what you think of these books. Let me know what you think of my new desk. And let's go watch some hockey, guys. Yeah, I'm going to go get some dinner. But thanks for joining me on this 16th episode, I believe. 16th? 16th, number 16th episode of New History on the Horizon. We will have another one quite soon. I just got a ton of packages downstairs, so there is more rolling in. I don't know what to do. There's just so many things. But anyway, thanks for joining me here on the History Shelf. All you history fans out there, history lovers, you know, we got to stick together and we got to keep reading, keep learning. Dogs are barking. That's my cue. Gotta go. Until next time, BookTube, thanks for joining me here. Take care. Bye-bye.